I'm going to call the September meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals to order. This is the meeting of September 13th. The board that we have with us tonight is member Steve Lianis, James Sweeney, Fire Chief Brian Nardelli, our alternate member Monique Screen-Berry, myself, Chair Kenneth Galligan, the building inspector and secretary to the board, James Plouffe, and our recording secretary, Monique Fagazzo. I would ask that anyone that has a phone or electronic device, if you would just either shut it off or put it on silence so that you don't interfere with the meeting, that would be appreciated. If you need to use the phone, just go out in the corridor if you need to use the phone. Prior to tonight's hearing, there is an opportunity for anyone to withdraw. We have had one withdrawal tonight. In that case that has been withdrawn is Petition 2280 of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro South Incorporated, 19 Court Street, second floor, Taunton, Mass, for a special permit and variance to expand the Boys and Girls Club to accommodate its growing needs in an R3 zone located at Belmont Street in a portion of the Eldon B. Keith Fields. That has been withdrawn is Petition 2280 of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro South Incorporated, 19 Court Street. So if you are here tonight for that case, for the Boys and Girls Club, that case has been withdrawn. It may be posted at a future meeting, but it will not be heard tonight. Prior to the start of the meeting, if there is anyone that would like to withdraw, this would be the time to withdraw. Is there anybody that wants to withdraw? Seeing none, we'll move on. If you are here tonight for that case, for the Boys and Girls Club, that case has been withdrawn. It may be posted at a future meeting, but it will not be heard tonight. Prior to the start of the meeting, if there is anyone that would like to withdraw, this would be the time. This isn't going to work. Is there anybody that wants to withdraw? Seeing none, we'll move on. Okay, we're going to call recess for a few minutes while we straighten out the audio. We'll reconvene the meeting. So the order of the meeting tonight will be as follows. When your petition is called, the representative that's going to speak before the board would come to the podium, give your name and address to the clerk, and present your case. Once the petitioner has completed the presentation of the case, I will then ask if any of the board members have any questions relative to the testimony that has just been given. When I complete that, I will then close that portion of the hearing, and I will ask if there is anyone here that wants to speak in favor of the petition. Once we have completed that, I will close that portion of the hearing. I will ask if there is anyone here that wants to speak in opposition. Once that has been completed, I'll close that portion of the hearing. I'll ask if there's any elected official in the audience that wants to be heard on the issue. Following that, I will close the public hearing. At that point, I will open it up for deliberation among the board members. So the only one speaking at that point will be the board members and myself. At some point, you'll hear a board member make a motion to grant. If it's followed up by a second, we will then call for a roll call vote. At the end of the roll call vote, I will announce the decision, the result of the vote, and the decision of the chair. In order for a petition to pass, out of 5 members, if all 5 vote in the affirmative, it will pass. If 4 vote in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, it will pass. If it's a 3-2 vote or less, the petition will be denied. All right, board members, we all set? Good. Good. All right, the first petition to come before the board tonight is Petition 2278, the petition of Sasha Incorporated, doing business as Grab and Go, 443 Crescent Street, Brockton, Mass, for a special permit from Section 2729 to obtain a full liquor license in a C2 zone located at 441 Crescent Street.
So my name is Shahid Kuman. I'm here representing myself. I'm with Sasha Inc. I started this business last year over here.
Your name is the SAISHA?
Yes, that's my company, yes.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, thank you.
I started this business last year. I've been in a similar business for about 20 years now. This particular location has been in a food and beverage business for close to 30 years. This is a former beer and wine location. I recently came to know there's a full liquor license available. This building itself fits the very good profile for the kind of business that this license is available. We have plenty of parking there. The building size is close to 5,700 square feet. It will be good for the community. It will be good for our business. And I think whatever this business requires, it goes hand in hand with the kind of business that I'm running over there already.
Okay, board members, any questions?
How many years did you say you were operating so far?
Close to 20 years. I do run another business, 7-Eleven on Belmont Street. That is a beer and wine location. I've been there 4 years. I have a store in Weymouth that I have for 15 years. Before that, I was a manager with Tedeschi Food Shops. So I've been over 20 years experience in this field.
And have you had any violations in
No.
this location?
No.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir. Have you had any violations of the other location as well?
No, sir.
Sir, do you plan on selling the small nip bottles as well as big bottles and different things of that nature?
I'm trying to have, in addition to what we already do, it's not going to be a full liquor store. We're already in a food and beverage business. This is going to be in addition to what we do. So I have never held a liquor store before. I have a beer and wine store. There are no small bottles. We don't go for small bottles that attracts the unwanted customers. I want to please good customers who come there and help the community and be a family business.
Okay. I think the reason I ask is because those are very easily discardable on the street in the area, and it becomes a trash issue that can be concerning.
I do have a service there that comes in clean, and in addition to that, the employees are required to go out and clean, sweep the parking lot. We do have a trash barrel outside, and if it needed, we can add extra trash barrels outside.
Thank you.
I think that question was asked as a courtesy because it has become a problem, but the License Commission would regulate what can be sold out of that store. But what the chief just brought up has been a problem in the city in the past.
I will be fine with any kind of regulations that city wants to put on it. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I want to do the business the right way. So whatever it takes, I will do it.
Very good. Also, we have received word from the License Commission that there are no licenses available at the present time. So obviously you're going through this process to get permission to be perhaps in line if something develops, if a license becomes available. But you need to realize that currently, as of tonight, there are no licenses available.
I was told that licenses are not available anymore, but at that time, I was already so much into it. The last meeting, there was special meeting held, and it happened so quickly. I was not notified. I have gone to the licensing board office several times, and this process is, I couldn't get into the meeting for that one. Mm-hmm. And it happens only once a month, so here I am.
Okay, so I just want you to realize that if this is favorably acted upon tonight, we are not granting you the license to operate that store. We are merely saying that we're giving you a special permit. where we would allow that to be located in that location, if it's approved.
I do understand that.
Okay, good. So, just for the edification of the board, in 1978, Little Peach came before this board for a beer and wine license only, and it was denied. In 1990, Little Peach with Purity Supreme came before this board, and they were approved for a beer and wine license only. So apparently that beer and wine license has been there since 1990.
That is correct. The beer and wine license was there, but when 7-Eleven decided to take over Tedeschi Food Shops, the franchisee at that time who owned the license decided to give that license or sell that license to someone else. So right now, there is no license there. So that's why I'm here, if something comes available, so that I can purchase or acquire from the city.
Okay, and you're telling us you have experience in this type of work?
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right, any other questions from any board members? None? Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public hearing. I'm now going to open it up for deliberations from the board. Board members.
Yeah, I think in these circumstances, without a longstanding business, no violations, I'm more inclined to be favorable for that. And, you know, what it also does, I mentioned last meeting, it does cut down on trips through the city and around the city, keeps it localized for traffic, just
No, I agree.
small add-on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Motion to grant?
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Delanus,
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Chief Nadelli,
Yes.
Mr. Galligan.
Yes.
Chair, this is 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
The vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
The next petition is 2279, the petition of Rich Costa, manager, 35 Amherst Avenue, Bridgewater, Mass., for a variance for permission to raise the existing home and to build 2 single-family homes on the existing lot of record in an R1C zone located at 18 Byron Avenue. Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. I'm Attorney Chris Vale, here on behalf of Richard Costa, the manager of Eagle Diversified LLC, for our application on 18 Byron Avenue. This is an appeal to the zoning board seeking to overturn the negative decision of the building inspector in that the subject property is a pre-existing non-conforming buildable lot in accordance with Brockton Ordinance Article 3, Section 2712. However, in the alternative, we are asking the board to vote, if they deny that request, our applicant seeks a variance to create a buildable lot under Article 3, Sections 27.9 and 2713A, using a variance. Some facts particular to our application is that in recent years, or except in recent years, the existing home has been used as a 2-family and has always been assessed as a 2-family home. The deed descriptions have always described 2 separate parcels, thereby resulting in lots of records. In the application, we've attached deeds dating back to the pre-zoning. The lots have always been described as separate lots and have not been described in a running description as one lot. Although shown on the assessor's plan as one, the frontage is separately shown as 2 lots with the attached map to the application. The lot is adjacent to the home, or the adjacent to the home is vacant, in which the lot has always been a lot of record required by section 2712. In addition, the lot is in common ownership with the lot upon which the house stands, which triggers the requirement of an analysis of section 2712 to determine whether or not the vacant lot is grandfathered lot and buildable by right. Some particular facts to prove this with 2712 is that the vacant lot is a lot of record by the virtue of it having been described in the deeds as having a separate description. In addition, the lot is not adjacent to vacant land. Rather, it is adjacent to the other lot as described in the deeds upon which stands a single-family home with an address of 18 Byron Avenue. Both lots are in common ownership. And lastly, both lots have been described separately. This present case is similar to the case back in 2004 with Steve Delcouris versus the Brockton ZPA, where that case, the court found that the lot in question was pre-existing non-conforming lot, which met each of the standards of 2712. The facts are quite similar to those presented to the board in this present case. In the alternative, we are requesting the variance in which we need to prove the hardship. And it's very clear in this present case that the existing home is dilapidated and in need of removal as it is beyond repair. Over the years, the lots have become very unsightly, and the proposed homes would be a major improvement to the area and neighborhood. And for these reasons, we are asking the board, one, to grant it as buildable by right under 2712, or in the alternative, grant us a variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, any comments?
I guess everyone else, I don't want to cut anyone off. There are 2 curb cutouts on that.
Yes,
So I guess I'm just curious as to an explanation as to 2 curb cutouts when there's a question about it being 1 lot or 2.
there is 2 separate lots as
You're
described.
only allowed 1 in the city of Brockton, so that's why I'm kind of,
I believe that the curb lot where we're saying is the vacant land was a former stable.
Yeah.
In which, that's why we're stating that it is 2712 buildable by right. Structure, although that there was a curb cut going into it where the family used it as a stable
so, okay.
historically, and I think that was even prior to zoning?
Yes.
Prior to zoning, it was
Okay.
used as that.
Okay. And that house would be raised, the one that is the 2-family that,
It would no longer be a
Yes.
2-family, it would be 2 single-family.
It would be, yeah, the intent is to raise.
Take the microphone with you so everybody can hear it. You can take the microphone over to the plan if you'd like. There you go.
The intent is to raise the existing structure that was used as a 2-family, non-conforming, but it was used as a 2-family for years. I'm sorry, that's the dwelling structure here, which is about 1.5 feet off the property line over there. This structure on this side was that Attorney Vail was talking about was originally a stable, then it was used as a garage repair facility with what appears to be a residence upstairs. That created the second curb cut, and that's all on the second lot. So we would raise both structures, clear the lot out. The lot is, I purchased the lot the beginning of this year, but, all the lots, but raise all structures, clear the lot, and put 2 houses like I've done, I think 6 times so far in Brockton.
I'm just curious, does that deed go back to the house on West Elm Street? No. No? Okay. 'Cause I know that house dates back quite a ways.
I think the deed goes back to approximately 1900.
Right. Okay.
I researched the deeds on this back to 1892. And In 1892, it described 2 parcels. Each one of the parcels was described by a set of mets and bounds, and there were 2 separate distinct lots. There was a transfer in 1911, which was exactly the same deed. In 1953 was the same deed. 1962 was the same deed. 1977 was the same deed. 1981 was the same deed that described both lots as 2 separate lots with a set of mets and bounds for each one of them. In 2022, there was a release from the probate court, and the most recent sale was February of this year to Eagle Diversified. And in all of the deeds that I researched, every deed was identical, that it described each lot as a separate lot with a separate mets and bounds. Now, I'll just kind of remind the board that we have been down this road a number of times here. And in several cases that have gone to court and one to state Supreme Court, the compelling factor is the deed description. And if the deed description describes each lot separately with mets and bounds, then that is a lot. If these lots were described by separate mets and bounds prior to the latest zoning, which was 1979, December of 1979, those lots maintain the separate delineation as they were. Any lot that's created after our newest zoning has to conform to all of the mets and bounds of our 27. Any lot that was described prior to that with mets and bounds is a so-called grandfathered lot. The reverse of this was the case that we had in the Jones case, where there were 3 separate lots that were shown on a plan. However, the deed for those 3 separate lots was one encompassing deed that described the totality of the width of all the 3 of them, the depth, and all the way back again. The court in that case made a decision that for that kind of description of lots, if there is one deed describing all 3 lots, then you have 1 lot. In this case, it's 180 degrees from that the courts have told us that if the deed describes each lot by a separate mets and bounds, and the deed prior to the latest zoning that we are operating under right now, that lot is what it was and still is today prior to the start of our new zoning. So in this case, I am looking at this as one member, that we have here before us a piece of property that may have been used, 2 lots used together with a garage or whatever, and legally, they are 2 separate lots. Now, for tax purposes, the assessors can combine those 2 lots and give one assessment and one tax bill for 2 lots. But the compelling feature here is what the deed has to say. And in this case here, we have no record that anybody from the family that owned this property requested that these 2 lots be combined. So even today, these 2 lots are separate lots. If it's determined that these are separate lots by deed, the zoning that was in effect in 1963, which is the zoning just prior to ours that we're operating under right now, what did I say, 69?
79.
1967.
67.
I'm sorry. So the zoning that was in place in 63 would be the compelling zoning that would dictate how buildings can be built on the lot. So Anything that's built after, which is the zoning we're in right now, has to conform to the current zoning, otherwise we grant them a variance. If we want to, if it's proven that there's a hardship. In this case, it seems to be pretty evident that these two lots are standalone lots. They are two separate lots. When you look at Chapter 40A, and you look under merger, under 40A, if there is several lots that are owned by the same individual and they are up against each other, merger requires them to be merged to create a more conforming lot. In this case, in Brockton, you would have to own a vacant lot next to the vacant lot in order to make them merge. And in this case, there is no vacant lot next to the lot that's in question. So what we have here is one lot that has a structure on it, and we have another one that's so-called vacant. The other thing that we need to be aware of is that in at least two of the cases that have gone to court, the judges have ruled that even if there are structures on the so-called vacant lot, that does not make the lot unbuildable. And they reference a swimming pool, a flagpole, a fire pit, a driveway. If that is located on the vacant lot, as long as it's not a habitable structure, then that doesn't preclude the lot from being deemed to be a buildable lot. So in this case here, we have a lot that has a garage or a shed on it. According to what we have heard in cases that have gone to court, is the fact that that building that's on that lot does not preclude that lot from being a buildable lot. So that's the history as I see it, as one member of this board, that the whole determination on these grandfathered lots is based upon what the deed says prior to, I think it's December 26th of 1967. If the deed described those lots by mets and bounds, then the deed is the controlling factor. It is not what the assessors do for assessing taxes on that property. So I'll just tell you, that's what I found when I did my homework and researching the court cases that we have been through. There is pretty much consistency that if there's a mets and bounds on a lot, it describes that lot. If there's 3 or 4 lots together and there's one mets and bounds that describe all the lots, there is only one lot, not 3 lots. So in this case, we have mets and bounds that describe 2 lots. And it would appear to me that these are 2 separate lots. And if we determine that they are 2 separate lots, the petitioner would be allowed to build on those lots as long as he conforms to the zoning that was in effect in 1963. I think it was 63 to 67. There was another one, 1927 to 63, and then 63 to 67, and now the one we have now. So that's how I see it. That's what I have to say.
I think we're still at petitioner comment.
Pardon me?
Are we just wondering where we are in the meeting, petitioner comment or?
Yeah, we're still
Okay,
explaining it.
okay.
So we'll deliberate at the end, but
Okay.
I just wanted to express what I think we're looking at here tonight. So, any other questions from board members? Nothing? Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition? Please come forward.
Hello, my name is Audrey Anderson. I live at 38 Byron Ave. I don't know if I'm in opposition. I'm just trying to understand. You're saying that there's 2 lots and that there need to be a variance. From what I can see, there's Jeffrey's, the late Jeffrey, his garage, and then the big house that he and his mom lived in since we were kids. Now, what would this variance be for?
Well, if the board determines that these are grandfathered lots, there is no need for a variance because they would be grandfathered lots, and the petitioner could build on those lots in conformance with zoning that was in effect in 1963. That's dictated by the deed.
So you're saying that these are the two separate lots you're talking about with the garage and with the house? You're saying
Correct.
those are two lots?
Correct.
Would he be building one-family homes?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if this is the right place to address it, but the vermin problem that exists now, where I have to hire a exterminator, which is costing me a lot of money, because the vermin that's in the garage, if this is torn down, it will be a nightmare. I'm talking rats like I've never seen, like something that you see on TV. Huge rats, rabbits, fox, raccoons, huge things. And I'm not right next to him. My neighbor is right next to him. I am next to him. Is there anything that will be done if he is granted to build on this to keep us from getting more vermin that will get into our homes?
Yes, I'll partially answer the question. I'll defer to the building inspector. But in order to tear that building down, he's going to have to get a demolition permit. And part of the demolition permit requires him probably to get an exterminator to make sure that all that vermin is out of there before the building can be torn down. Mr. Building Inspector, is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that is correct. The Board of Health would require them to put bait traps out to collect any, or to get rid of the vermin.
So there's a whole process in place to address your issue when a building is going to be torn down.
Okay, and this definitely will be done before he can build?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's crazy until I had the exterminator come, and it's a little less, but I'm still terrified. Did not have a garden this year. I did not have a flower garden or vegetable garden. I'm scared of rats. I'm not scared of dogs or snakes, but I'm scared of rats and mice.
Me too.
So I just want to make sure that there would be something done with that if he is granted to build on
Well, I
the
feel
house.
confident that listening to the building inspector, that either the building department or the health department, the petitioner that wants to tear that building down has to get permits to do it. And part of the permitting process is going to require him to have someone make sure that all that vermin is out of there.
And not in my yard.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hi, I'm on property line, 32 Byron Avenue. I just want to make sure that, the new property is not going to be encroached on my property. And I need to know the borderline, the property line between those two houses.
Okay, what number are you?
32,
32.
yes, sir.
You're towards the West Elm Street side.
Yes, sir.
All right. I think the petitioner may show you on that chart exactly where you are in relation to that, if that'll be helpful to you. Where am I, in opposition? Yes, it looks like it. Is there anyone else that wants to speak in opposition?
I'm here with my mother. I don't actually live in Brockton, but she lives at 19 Byron Ave.
The Morgan family?
Yes.
I have received your correspondence, so go ahead.
Okay. I also just wanted to say, I listened to what you had to say, but Bernard Lindsay versus the Board of Appeals for Milton said it's a well-known practice in conveying property in Massachusetts, and it's convenient to show the chain of title. It's recorded in the book Davis, Massachusetts Conveyances Handbook, 2nd edition, section number 140. And because these were never called plots, lots, or recorded with the city of Brockton, I feel that that's what this is, that they've always just shown, and all the ones that you listed, at the beginning, they were 2 separate ones, but then after a while, it says 18 Byron Ave, and then it would just list the 2 blocks. So they're saying, so that we can trace it, here are the 2 pieces. The other thing, there was a question about the curb cut. If you go there, the 2 curb cuts are because there was a circular driveway there. The remnants of it are still there. It's a 3-car garage. Years ago, when I first moved into the neighborhood, and I'm glad you're here and you know Jeffrey and his mother, she used to sit out in the middle. She had a garden. There's a flagpole over there. The garage has utilities that are attached to the house. There was a playroom upstairs that Jeffrey was allowed to use. On the side of it, on the back of it, there was big cast iron baseboard. There was a room that provided heat for it. So it's not an empty piece of property. It has always been part of that. Right now, if you go and look in there, there's probably all the summer furniture that they had, probably the lawnmower, a wheelbarrow, all the things that he and she would use to maintain their property. The property is, in some of the ones that you referenced, where a landscaped lot, really isn't merged, but there's a wall that's built partway across the back of this to separate off and make that driveway area, and then a lower area where different times they used to sit out in the backyard, and he had a big garden there. So it's been used as one single piece of property, and it is not vacant, and it does have a structure on it that is still linked. There are lights in and on the garage that go into the main house. It's still very much part of that one property.
Okay, I'll just quickly answer that question. That was one of the things that was addressed in the court decisions, that even though it was used in conjunction with the primary house, it still did not cause it to become merged with the property that the house is on. And there was some thought that years ago that when what you just described caused that lot to merge with the main house. And the courts have ruled just the opposite of that, that no matter what is on that lot, as long as it's not another house, virtually it's a lot that's determined by a deed, and the deed is registered in Plymouth. So in effect, you could clear that lot entirely and have a flat piece of land, and now there is a lot there with nothing on it. So there was arguments in the past that once something was on it, it was forever not a buildable lot. So the courts have ruled several times on different cases that have come before us, and they've kind of given us a clear path that what we described or what I talked about earlier is kind of the way the courts are looking at this. So in this case here, we have 2 separate lots owned by the same person. Both lots are delineated by separate measurements, mets and bounds they call it. If there was one line of mets and bounds that encompassed the 2 lots down the side, all the way across the back and down the other, then it would be one lot. But that's not the case here. So, I have received your correspondence, so I'll just put it in the record that we did receive it, but what you said in the correspondence, you're happy with what's on this?
Because it asks in the correspondence also, what is the hardship then?
Right, it was very explicit about if we were to grant a hardship, what would the hardship be?
Yes.
But in this case, if we determine that this is a buildable lot, there is no hardship. It's a buildable lot. All right, is there anyone else that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official that wants to be heard on this issue? Councilor.
Good evening. Tom Minicello, Ward 1 Councilor. The neighbors simply want to reiterate and express to this board that what's been on the property, you know, has been treated as a single-family residence with obviously two buildings, one the home and one the garage. They feel that putting two residential properties, two single families, is going to be overly crowded on the lot, and they feel that it will be out of character with the neighborhood as it is now. But I understand the legal considerations that you have with respect to the standard, but on behalf of the neighbors, I'd just like to express their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Any other elected official wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public portion of the hearing. Now, board members, deliberations.
Well, I think the recent Massachusetts case study that you've cited, where it's recorded in metes and bounds, clearly makes it a buildable lot per Massachusetts case study. So I would probably be more inclined to allow that, and it probably would also solve the infestation that's going on with that area.
I would agree. I think it's going to solve it promptly, but it's also going to solve it long-term, where you may not have to pay for your exterminator bill anymore, because there'll be homes there instead. So that would be, you know, I think that's...
It's where there seems to be where they're nesting.
Yes. And I don't blame the concerned citizen.
I agree. To me, it's pretty clear that it is two separate lots, and it will improve the neighborhood. It's an eyesore right now, and it definitely will end up eliminating the vermin. So, I'm
The rendition of the two homes that he proposes to put on these two lots are a structure that is long and narrow, which comports with the shape of the lot. So it would appear that if this is allowed, if the houses are built, they would look like they fit on the lot. We've seen situations in the city where long, narrow houses have been put on a narrow lot, and the plan that has been proposed is similar to others that we have seen, where the house is long and narrow, and it fits for a long and narrow lot, so.
Motion to grant?
Mr. Chairman, just on that motion real quick, I want to make sure we know what we're voting on here, because if we're voting that these are two separate lots, we're not voting on a variance. So we're voting on to say that they're two separate lots, correct, on the first vote?
If the vote fails that says that it is two separate lots, we can then take a second vote to determine whether or not we want to grant a variance.
Okay.
If we vote that these are two separate lots, there will be no need for a second vote.
I'll second Mr. Sweeney's motion to grant.
Okay, there's been a motion made and seconded to grant. An affirmative vote will support the petitioner, indicating that these are two separate grandfathered lots. An affirmative vote says that they are two separate lots. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lanus?
yes.
Ms. Greenberry?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Chief Nadelli?
Yes.
And Chair Galligan?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
Thank you very much.
The vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted.
Yeah, I do.
Before the petitioner leaves the room, I would suggest maybe you could share that photo of what it looks like with the neighbors. All right, the next petition, 2280, has been withdrawn. The next petition is 2281, the petition of New Vision Enterprises, LLC, Joseph Goncloves, manager, 188 Court Street, Brockton, Mass., for a special permit for permission to construct a 50-unit apartment building in a C3 zone located at Lot A on Petronelli Way.
Good evening again, Chairman, members of the board. Attorney Chris Vale. With me today is Scott Ferrier, the engineer, as well as architect Kevin Patton. And with us also is for the petitioner Joseph Goncloves of New Vision Enterprises, LLC. Mr. Goncloves is a Brockton native who specializes in construction management. The petition in which we're applying to the zoning board is for a special permit to allow a multifamily residential use in a C3 zone under Article 4, Section 2733B, with a waiver of the space standards in the R3 zone, Table 1. The petitioner is also seeking relief from the parking to allow for one space per dwelling unit. Some facts particular to this project is the property is currently vacant, piece of land in the downtown area. It is adjacent to the old Petronelli's boxing gym. The city will be constructing a new street and sidewalk on the easterly side of this building. Across the new street and running the length of the petitioner's building will be a newly constructed park commemorating the famous boxer Marvin Hagler. The area of this project is one that the city has been eyeing as a new development for years. The petitioner does have the experience in developing high-end projects, in which he's actually currently working on the historic renovation of 19-31 Main Street in the city. However, this luxury apartment building will have the following amenities, listing a 35 one-bedroom units, 15 two-bedroom units with 2 full baths, a co-working area on the 2nd floor, a high-end fitness space on the 2nd floor, laundry facilities in each individual unit, delivery space for the United States Postal Service, UPS, FedEx, 1-to-1 parking spaces per unit with 31 on site and 19 to be released or to be leased from the city at the garage across Petronelli Way, as well as high-tech security with fob access, garage doors, and lastly, the building is designed to provide maximum sunlight to each unit, as well as providing the same for the adjacent property on Petronelli Way. In a C3 zone under Article 3, Section 2718, there's no requirement for green space. However, the petitioner does provide for some green space on site, as well as what I mentioned before, there will be a brand new park across the street. The residents will be close to the MBTA and BAT bus station. It is in the downtown area, which has been favorably changing over the past few years. Luxury residents of this nature will enhance the positive growth of downtown. This board has previously approved relief for projects of this nature, and this one is located in an area targeted for the city's redevelopment. The C3 ordinance refers to Table 1 space requirements when applying for a special permit. In the present case, the petitioner requests relief from this 3-story height restriction, as well as the density restrictions. The reason for this request is that the proposed residence size and height would be in keeping with the other buildings now located in downtown Brockton, as well as the building is in such close proximity to public transportation. It is requested to allow a 1-to-1 parking space for each residential unit. We believe that this is reasonable due to the close proximity to the new garage, which has public parking, from which spaces will be leased by the petitioner for the benefit of the tenants. This would total 50 spots where they'd be leasing 19 spaces, and I did attach a letter of commitment to the application from the parking authority. As this project is located in the downtown area, Although the R3 space standards must be looked to, applying them in this area probably doesn't make too much sense, in which the downtown Brockton area is changing, and now a recognition of bringing more people to live here. It will improve economic vitality in an area that has suffered for years. With the proximity of public transportation, as well as the BAT bus and MBTA rail line, higher density is acceptable and now encouraged. Also, by bringing in more people to live, shops and restaurants are more likely to locate in this area. This type of development is a win for the city. Mr. Goncloves has designed a project that will bring vitality to downtown. He will have a parking ratio of slightly less than 1 space per unit, as many of his tenants will likely use the commuter rail. Having that second car will not likely be an objective for his tenants. Also, with 1 and 2 bedroom units, the chances of seeing a typical family with children here is unlikely. The target of his project is trying to get younger professionals who cannot afford to live in the city to actually live in Brockton and be able to take the commuter rail, and then when they get home, use the new restaurants that are hopefully going to be opening up. But apartments of this nature, like I said, will attract and provide an alternative for professionals who work in and around the Boston area who either can't afford the Boston rents, or professionals that would simply prefer to have lower rent while still maintaining access to the city. Being close to the bus and train, the building will be suited to provide an urban living environment, often for people who do not own automobiles and could commute to Boston easily. This has already been seen in other similar new projects downtown. As most of the current allowable commercial uses in a C3 zone do not fit with the proposed redevelopment of the area, granting a special permit and the other relief requested would result in the highest and best use for this property. Also, the assessor has previously confirmed that developments of this nature will result in an increase to the tax revenue to the city by converting the use to residential. In regards to our special permit standards, our proposed use will be a significant improvement to the neighborhood and will attract additional smart growth to the downtown area. And for these reasons, Mr. Goncloves respectfully requests that relief be granted in order for us to complete this project.
Board members, any questions?
The trash area there, how is that going to be accessed by the trash truck to take it out? I think I might know, but it's not as clear to me on the plans.
Please use the microphone. Yeah.
Whenever you speak, just pick up the microphone. There you go.
My name is Kevin Patton. I'm a principal at BKA Architects, located at 142 Crescent Street in Brockton. The trash right now is designated here, which is on the one-way access alley adjacent to the Petronelli building. Now, Petronelli has their trash coming out their back area here and being picked up off of the alley, and we would be wheeling out the trash bins through an overhead door here, waiting here for the trash truck to then pick them up. And
Would this be dumpsters or individual trash barrels?
no, they would be similar to what we would see at West Elm Street. So they're more of a barrel, 2 yards? No more than 2 yards.
Okay, all right, okay.
Not a dumpster.
And how often is that picked up? It doesn't look like a real large area for trash for such a big building, is my only concern.
Right, understood. I mean, there's both trash and recycling that would happen in there, but it could be picked up, I think West Elm is every few days, couple days.
Actually twice a week.
Okay. Thank you.
And obviously, he would stipulate to, depending on the frequency of when trash needs to be done.
I'm not a professional on trash, I do fires, but it doesn't look like a huge area for that, that's the only thing. And I was just wondering, I think my bigger concern was I didn't know if a truck was gonna go in there and get it, and one other question I had, what's the height of the doors going into that under parking area? Like, what is it? 8 feet, so a standard vehicle. Pick up, whatever, okay.
From the garage entrance where you come in off the alleyway, the floor above it is 12 feet up. However, the garage slopes with topography. So as you go down to the new Hagler Way, it's another 2.5 feet lower. So the tightest area is at the access alley, and we should achieve about a 9'6" ceiling height in the garage.
What's the plan for snow removal?
Snow removal?
We actually have a full-time property management company within our construction company also, so we'll be actually taking care of that. A lot of the roadways that are actually here are actually private, publicly owned sidewalks where the building actually is connected to. So we'll actually take care of that ourselves by snow blowers or actually having individuals out there taking care of that, so.
Will you be removing it from the property?
Yes, yep, yep. Yes.
I think to Mr. Lannis' concern, I just, it's private property and, people do it in their houses. They put it out in the street and wait for the big city plows to go by and take care of it. That can't be the case on a property like this. It's got to actually
Yeah,
be
it wouldn't, yeah.
Seems to be a road on the outside of the building towards the Hagler Park there. Are you constructing a road too?
Is that Hagler Way?
Take the microphone.
Thank you. What we show as Lot B is intended by the city to be a future roadway, but not part of this project.
Okay.
So that'll be going before the planning board for site plan and definitive subdivision approval in the future.
Okay, thank you.
So Lot B is actually going to be a street.
Correct.
And that Lot B, the new street, has nothing to do with this building.
That is correct.
So we're presuming that when all this is done, there will be a street there, but right now, they could build this building and there'd be no street there.
That's correct. They would have frontage on Franklin and Petronelli and not need any access. They're not going to have any access off of this new street even once it's built.
So I guess the design for this is just to allow traffic to move from Petronelli Way to Franklin Street
That's correct.
without going down to Montello Street.
Yes, sir.
Okay. One thing I noticed on this plan is that J.K. Holmgren did not indicate how big the parking places were in this garage.
I'm disappointed that's not there, Mr. Chairman, but it is 9 by 18.
All right, I got my ruler out and measured them, and they are 9 by 18.
There you go.
It was a test.
All right, so we're looking for 180 square feet per unit.
Yes.
You're telling us that we're going to get 162.
Inside, yes, that's correct.
Are these all going to be smart cars?
That's the hope.
I'm just,
I think by 2030, they all have to be smart cars,
Yeah.
so we'll be covered.
so you're actually telling us that these parking spaces are going to be 162 square feet, not the traditional 180?
That's correct.
What are you doing, if anything, for any potential visitors that are going to be coming to this building? They're on their own?
I think they would be on their own and realistically park in the parking garage.
All right. I contacted the parking garage because it seems as though every building that's being built downtown is putting people in this parking garage. And in my conversation with the gentleman who's in charge of that, he informed me that they're rapidly reaching a point where they're going to be maxed out for parking in that garage.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying that there's 19 parking places that have been set aside in that garage, and I calculated that you need a few more than 19, and I don't want to make a huge issue of it, but I am just concerned that a full-size car going in this garage, it would appear from the measurements that I took that where it says Lot A, which is the drive coming in from Petronelli Way, it's only 21 feet. And if you take a full-size car and put it in parking spot number 6, the back end of that car is going to be sticking out into the 21 feet. And when that car backs out of that spot, he's going to have to make a 4 or 5 point turn to get out of there. So you're aware of that?
We are, and I think that's, I mean, you've got a big car. If you go park in a parking garage, it's tough to get around in the garage with a big car, and it's tough to park in most of the spaces. So it's kind of the, I think the 9 by 18 spaces in a parking garage is, at this point, kind of the industry standard.
And the relief from parking, our zoning says that in the R3 district, for residential, you need 1 spot for the first bedroom and a half a spot for the second bedroom. So what I did is I made calculations with the 1 bedrooms and the 2 bedrooms, and I think we're more than 19 short. You're looking for 19 in the garage. You may be looking for 24 or 25 in the garage rather than the 19, based upon the Section 27 of our zoning. So basically what you're saying is, the way I understand it, is for all 50 apartments, you're making provisions for about 50 cars. And in the proximity to this, to the train station, the idea is many of these people will be using public transportation rather than a vehicle. I just need to make sure that you understand that in my conversation with the parking authority, that garage is rapidly getting to the point where it's, you know, every spot's being, it's getting to the point where they need another parking garage downtown if this development keeps continuing down there. So I'll just put that out there for information that the next one that comes up here may not be able to get into that garage.
Actually, I had one comment to say in reference to the parking. Currently at 19-31 Main Street, we have 20 residential properties. At this time, I have 35 applications that are actually waiting to hopefully reside there. Of the 35 applications, I only have 7 individuals with vehicles. So kind of, I do understand your point, and it's just kind of seeing that I do see the influx of these young professionals coming in that are Ubering, that are taking lifts and things of that nature. I would love to, you know, hopefully add more parking, but I think it's just the demand that I have, which I currently have 20 spaces in the parking garage allocated for my building, of which only 7 is needed. So, you know, it is something that I'm seeing the demand is trending more in that direction, just coming from the building that's down the street, so.
So the building at Main and Green Street, the parking for that building will also be in that same garage?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, yeah, we're still quite a bit of spaces that are available, even though like the building is pretty much, you know, assigned each apartment, so.
Well, it is a C3, it is downtown, it is unique in the location that it's in. I don't disregard that. But I just wanted to make sure that we all understood that those parking spaces that we see in there are not 180 square feet, they're only 162. So they're made for more or less compact vehicles rather than full-size vehicles. And the outside that I see here, parking spaces 1 through 4, 5, and 6, that is just going to be a surface paved area. And the delineation that we see will be paint marks in the blacktop. That will not be a raised island or anything like that.
Correct, yeah, that's not going to be raised. It will be open, and we thought that would also be best for emergency vehicles as well.
It would probably make sense in this case. And my last question is, what do we have here for green space, if anything? You're going to plant some trees or something around this place to make it a little user-friendly?
There's a little bit.
Tree man.
Yeah, we are currently working with the planning department, and we've discussed potential tree locations as well as planting beds. They're not finalized, so they're not on this plan, but they are being discussed, and you should see by the final product some greenery around the building.
In the first floor of this building, will the upper floors extend out beyond the footprint of the first floor?
They do. They are all obviously within the property lines, but they do come out closer to the property line. And it gives it a little bit of a dynamic, contemporary feel to the building, where we have a brick core, if you've looked at the renderings, and then we have this contemporary boxes that project off of that base core at different angles. But some of them do come out pretty close to the property line.
And in this building, how many elevators are you going to have?
There's one elevator, which we think is reasonable for 50 units. It's right on the line. It would be, because it's going 6 stories, it would be a roped elevator, not hydraulic. So it'll be a fairly quick elevator.
My only concern is if that elevator is out of service for any reason, it's not very friendly for those people that are living upstairs. And I notice there's a tendency in a lot of these buildings now just to put in one elevator. I'm old school. You put one in, you put a second one in, like City Hall right here. We got one elevator. If that elevator is down, it virtually shuts this building down. And I'm just concerned that in a building like this, and I don't mean this to be a deal breaker by any means, but I just want to get it out there, that if you don't maintain that elevator and make sure it's working all the time, for public safety issues on those upper floors without an elevator, it's a huge, huge problem. So I would hope that if you're going to have that one elevator, that you have provisions to make sure that whatever happens there, it's readily fixable.
Understood and heard?
Definitely understood.
Now, you say yes. You think that's going to happen?
I'm sorry, repeat that again, sorry?
So the concern that I have with the one elevator, you feel as though you have that under control?
Yes, I do. Yeah, so currently, I've actually dealt with Kone, which is a very reputable firm. They have a 24-hour maintenance division. So when situations like that happen, they work with hospitals, schools, everything of that nature. I wouldn't let it, prolong any further. It would have to be. So I am using a reputable company that has the services that are capable of providing that service.
The other thing that sometimes gets missed on these is that when you're first putting tenants in the building, when the movers come in, they tie up that elevator for the longest time. I mean, this is part of living in this type of building, but again, that's one of the issues that you deal with when you only have one elevator.
Yep, and then the way we deal with that is we actually have segmented move-ins. We don't, essentially when somebody does sign a lease with us, they would have a 2-day time frame to actually move into the apartment where they'll actually have the elevator for their accessibility, usually during a certain time frame. So we try to lock that in to make considerations for that. We wouldn't allow like 10 units to move in all at once, so.
Okay, I asked enough questions. Board members?
Mr. Chair, if I could, what are the sizes of these units? Square footage?
Yeah, a typical 2-bedroom hovers right around 1,000 square feet. We have one just over 1,000 and 2 that are just 20, 30 square feet under 1,000. A typical 1-bedroom averages 750. Okay. We have them as small as 730 and as close to like 770, 780
okay.
In the building.
Thank you.
Everybody good? Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing, and now, is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official that wants to be heard on the issue? Councilor.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the ZBA. Councilor Jeff Thompson, Ward 5. I'm here to support the petition, the petitioner's request for a special permit. I've been assisting with this project since its inception, so I'm happy that we're finally before the ZBA and this project is progressing. This project has the full support of the City Council. We unanimously approved a tax increment exemption agreement for this development. The council also worked with the developer, the Brockton Redevelopment Authority, and the Commonwealth to increase the size of this parcel by shifting the location of the new Marvelous Marvin Hagler Drive to allow for the best possible project at this site. This development will bring 50 modern market rate apartments to the heart of our downtown, and that's in keeping with our downtown action strategy. And I believe that this development will bring additional further development in this area, will be a catalyst for that development. So I urge this board to vote in favor of this petition. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members.
Any other elected official who wants to be heard? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public discussion. I will now open it up for discussion among the board members.
Yeah, I've got to concur. It certainly follows suit with the revitalization of downtown and what we're trying to do economically to bring it back up. So I just want to commend you on your current project and, you know, soon to be this project also.
I agree, and with the parking, I think whoever's gonna live there is gonna be with the understanding that they can't have 3, 4 large vehicles. You know, so they're gonna have to adjust to what's available for the parking. So I think it's a great project, and I think it's great for downtown. And I wish you all luck.
Motion to grant.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Delanus?
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Chief Nadelli?
Yes.
Chair Galligan?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
Vote 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted.
Good luck.
Good luck. All right, the next petition is 2282, the petition of Michael Heichel, 1325 Belmont Street, Brockton, Mass. For a variance to seek permission to build a single-family home on a vacant existing lot of record in an R1C zone located at 47 Sewell Street.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board again. Chris Vale, on behalf of Michael Heichel, present with me, Scott Faria. And this is our last petition of the night. This is an appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals seeking to approve the subject property as a pre-existing non-conforming buildable lot in accordance with the Brockton Ordinance, Article 3, Section 2712. In the alternative, we are asking the board to allow a variance to create a buildable lot under Article 3, 27.9 and 2713A. Some facts particular to Mr. Heichel's project is Plot 22 has at all material times been assessed as well as taxed as a standalone lot by the City of Brockton assessor. The assessed value of that lot has been $24,600 and has its own separate tax bill. I've attached a MLC to the application. Plot 22 is described in a separate deed filed with the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds. The building department determined that this plot was not buildable because prior ownership of the vacant lot had an in-ground pool. The prior owner abutting this lot from the rear of the lot from North Bassett Road. In 2016, that North Bassett Road property owner sold to its current owner. However, they did not sell Plot 22 on 47 Sewell Street to Hawkeye Fence until September 2016, believing it was a standalone lot that could be built upon. Currently, the pool is in complete disarray and unusable, which is on the lot. It has not been functional for years and currently has trees and weeds growing all throughout the interior of the pool. Mr. Heichel would like to remove the pool in order to build a single-family residence on the plot of land in this residential neighborhood. The proposed single-family residence would be consistent with all the other lots in the Sewell Street neighborhood by being similar in size and having similar frontage. The neighborhood would benefit by having a new home constructed and the removal of an unusable pool to improve the looks and add value to the homes that are already constructed. The proposed lot would consist of 8,874 square feet and would have 101.3 square feet of frontage. It would have 29.6 square feet rear set to the foundation of the property and have 24 square feet to the back deck. In addition, it will meet the side setbacks required and will have ample amount of parking as well as green space for the neighborhood. The lot has always been described on a separate deed. I have attached the current deed in which the lot has always been a lot of record, which is required by the 2712 standard. The lot is vacant. There is a pool and shed that will be deconstructed. However, there was no residential home that has ever existed on the lot. Mr. Heichel wants to build a single-family residence on this plot, which is short the minimum required area, frontage, and rear setback requirements of the R1C zone. However, this proposed residence will be similar in size and conditions to the existing properties in the neighborhood. Now, going through the 2712 analysis, in the present case, certain facts are undisputed, that this plot is lot of record by the virtue of it having been described on the deed recorded with the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds. The lot is vacant, as it is an old unusable pool. Plot 22 is not adjacent to vacant land, rather it is adjacent to residential structures on all sides, as well as a plot in the rear adjacent lot were in common ownership. Both the adjacent lots have always had separate descriptions and were on separate deeds. This plot has never been built upon besides a pool that is unusable and is a hardship to the property and neighborhood. I also attached with my application the Sam Medina case, in which the case ruled that the existence of a staircase that encroached on a lot did not make it merge, thus ruling that the lot was buildable by section 2712. This is very similar to our petition, where it's not a staircase but an old unusable pool, and as a matter of law should not indicate an intention to treat this locus and the abutting lot as one. Like the staircase, it can't be considered a habitable structure. However, in the alternative, the petitioner is requesting that the board approve a variance with a hardship present. In the present case, the city of Brockton assessed this lot as a separate lot and has taxed it. Homeowner always believed that it was a buildable lot and relayed upon the purpose and integrity of 2712. And for these reasons, I'm sorry, but in addition to the current use of the property, it is completely unfitting for the neighborhood, and it can also be deemed a danger to the neighborhood. The pool is completely unrepairable, trees growing out of it. I can imagine water being in it with mosquitoes as well. For these reasons, the board should determine that plot 22 as shown on the plan is buildable by right on 2712, or in the alternative grant a variance showing the hardship and allow Mr. Heichel to build the single-family residence.
Very good. Board members?
Does Mr. Heichel own the property right now, or is it still Hawkeye? Still Hawkeye. So you'll be doing the building, but not the ownership of the property?
He's going to be purchasing
You'll
it.
purchase it if this, I got you. Okay.
And there was a purchase and sale agreement signed on August 4th.
I saw, but I didn't know if that had gone through yet, or it was pending. Gotcha.
So just to kind of reiterate what we did on an earlier case, I researched the deeds back to 1946, and it described a parcel on Sewell Street and a separate one on Bassett Road. They're both described by separate nets and bounds, very similar to the last case that we heard. So this was transferred in 1965 1999, 2016, and in every transition or transfer of the property, the deed has read that a separate set of mets and bounds for each one of those. We've also looked at the cases that I referred to earlier about structures that are on the lot, and the court has ruled that those structures should not interfere with the decision of whether the lot is vacant or not, because in respect to those structures, they could all be cleaned out to be a flat piece of land, and then it would be a flat piece of land. So I think this is very similar to the last one we heard a while back. There was a determination, actually two determinations that were made many years ago by different building inspectors, and in my research, I think some of the decisions and what the decision was based upon is different than what we have experienced when we have gone to court and looked at very similar situations. In all those cases that we've been there, they said that if there was swimming pools, flagpoles, fireplaces, driveways on the lot, it did not make it unbuildable. So the way I see this, and I'll open it up to you guys, however you look at this, but it seems as though we have two separate lots here. And if this was granted to be a grandfathered buildable lot, it would conform to the standards that were in effect prior to 1967. So the side yard setback is different than what it is today. However, the front yard setback and the rear yard setback is still 30 feet. So in this case, what he's proposing to build here would have 30 feet in the front, but only 29 in the rear, and 17 for a deck. So this may be something that we would consider two votes on. One of the votes could determine whether or not this is in fact a buildable lot, and if it is, for what he's proposing to do here, he's going to need relief from the rear yard setback of a foot. So anyway, that's how I see it, and I'll open it up to you guys, whatever you... Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet, just, I just wanted to express my opinion that this is very similar to the last one. Okay, we good? No other questions?
I see the continuity, just like you're saying.
We're going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official that wants to be heard on the issue?
Good evening, Mr.
Counsel.
Chairman and Board. Tom Minicello, Ward 1 Counselor. I've taken a ride over to Sewell Street, and the proposed project certainly will improve for the neighborhood what's currently there. Mr. Heichel has built a couple of homes on that street already, and they're beautiful homes. He's built a beautiful home on Pearl Street, down by the corner of Pearl and Torrey. I would say that, you know, the hazard that currently exists, the neighbors are certainly going to benefit by bringing this project into uniformity in terms of what's already existing. To keep the property the way it is, I would say that's, you know, that would be a, something that no neighbor really would want. So not only, you know, in this case is you know, the law on your side, it would appear, but improving the neighborhood and doing the right thing for the neighbors, I think, is definitely a benefit for everyone in the community. As you can see, there's no neighbor here in opposition. So I'm very much in favor of this project. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Is there any other elected official who wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public discussion. I will now open it up for board members' comments.
Yeah, I had a chance to go by there, and, you know, continuity-wise with the legal aspect of it, it's similar to our earlier case. But in a neighborhood standpoint, the counselor is absolutely correct. You have a spot there that is quickly becoming a dump, dumping yard waste, you name it, and a hazard with a, I believe it might be a concrete pool that's in absolute disarray. So certainly an improvement to the neighborhood.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. I think we run into a lot of these we've had in the last few months where we're running into open, vacant lots that are just, they're gonna change the neighborhood and get the growth off of the streets. We heard in the earlier case about the vermin and such on the property. So I think just driving by there, I think this will be a real addition to the neighborhood and to go back to the whole legal perspective of it and what's been done in the past. And I think it sets this up for a good project.
You know, I agree.
I have a question that I just want to refer back to the petitioner. On the plan, is there any particular reason why the driveway doesn't come up side of the building?
Sorry, on the side of the building. Why doesn't the parking driveway go up to the side of the building?
It should be big enough to have sufficiently parking for 4 cars right now, the way it sits.
Okay, the only reason I asked the question, aesthetically, when you drive down the street, if those cars were deeper into the lot next to the house, it would look a lot better than the last car sitting out at the sidewalk. So it's only a comment. I think it would make sense maybe to extend that driveway a little further. All right, okay. Board members?
Motion to grant.
Second.
All right, so the first vote will be to determine if this is a buildable grandfathered lot that will allow them to build on the lot. An affirmative vote will support the petitioner's request that this is a buildable lot. Then we will entertain a second vote. Everybody good on that? Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lannis?
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Chief Nadelli?
Yes.
Chair Galligan?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, there's 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
Okay, the vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. That part of the petition is granted. Now, based upon the plan that has been submitted, it would appear that you're going to need relief on rear yard setback. You're going to require 30 feet. You've got 29 feet from the house plus the deck. So the chair would entertain a motion to grant a variance for relief from the rear yard setback.
Motion to grant.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant relief on the rear yard setback. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lannis?
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Chief Nadelli?
Yes.
And Chair Galligan?
Yes.
5-0, Chair.
Thank
Okay,
you,
the
Board.
vote is
Thank you.
5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted and the relief from rear yard setback is granted.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, good luck.
Attorney McCluskey will be back next month.
Pardon me?
Attorney McCluskey will be back next month.
You did fine.
You gotta tell them they're a piece of cake tonight. It's all him.
Mr. Chair, should we adjourn, or are you going to?
No, before we adjourn, we really should address the issue of selecting or appointing a chair and a vice chair for the coming year. I delayed it from last month because we didn't have all of our regular board members here.
Can I make a nomination?
Once a year, we make once a year, we elect a chairperson, and last year, we also elected a vice chair. So what I will do is the chair will open up nominations for chairperson for the coming year for the zoning board of appeals.
I nominate Kenneth Galligan.
Second?
Chair.
We have one nomination for Kenneth Galligan. Are there any others?
No one's fighting you for it.
Would anybody close nominations?
Close nominations.
Okay, we have one candidate, thank you very much, for chairman for the coming year. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Do I have to?
Yes, you do.
Mr. Lanus?
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry?
Yes.
Chief Nardelli? Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Chair Galligan?
Yes.
I'm surprised about that
I
one.
assume a yes means for the name that was submitted.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, now, secondly, we will elect a vice chairman who will take care of the meeting in the absence of the chairman.
Motion to elect
I will
Chief.
open nominations from the floor for a vice chairperson.
Motion to nominate Chief Nardelli.
Chief Nardelli has been placed in nomination. Are there any others?
Like to close that?
Motion has been made to close nominations. We will now vote. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lanus?
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry?
Yes.
Chief Nardelli?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Chair Galligan?
Yes.
It's 5-0 for both you, Mr. Chair, and for Chief Nardelli.
All right, as a result of the election for our coming year, the current chair will remain as chair of the zoning board, and the current vice chairman will remain as vice chair.
Motion to adjourn?
No other business. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.
Adjourned.